The mind is like a factory. Whatever instructions you give it consistently, it produces. If you fill it daily with fear, limitation, and complaints, it will manufacture excuses, doubt, and small living. But if you fill it with vision, wisdom, and disciplined thoughts, it will produce courage, creativity, and wealth. That's the power of a trained mindset. Most people train their body to survive. They go to work, they eat, they sleep, but they never train their mind to prosper. They spend 40 hours a week at a job and not even 4 minutes a day conditioning their thinking, and then they wonder why their income doesn't grow. You attract success by the person you become, not by wishing, not by waiting, but by working every day to upgrade your thinking, sharpen your philosophy, and raise your standards. The wealthy don't think like the average. They don't speak like the average. They don't react like the average. And that's why they don't live like the average. So let me say this. If you want to attract wealth, don't chase money, chase growth, chase wisdom. Chase becoming the kind of person that money is drawn to because of your discipline, your service, your mindset, and your value. The world doesn't give you what you want, it gives you who you are. Let's talk today about how to train the mind that attracts wealth, because that's where all lasting change begins. It's not the economy that determines your income. It's your philosophy about the economy. That might sound too simple at first, but think about it. Two people can walk through the same recession, the same market conditions, the same headlines. One comes out broke and bitter, the other comes out smarter and richer. Why? It's not circumstance. It's not luck. It's philosophy. It's the way you process what's happening, how you choose to respond instead of react. One man complains about inflation, another starts a business that thrives in uncertain times. What's the difference? It's how they think. It's the frame through which they interpret the world. That's philosophy. I remember years ago, I used to blame everything outside me. Taxes, politics, the company, the weather. But someone wiser than me challenged that habit. They said, what if it's not the economy? What if it's you? That hit me. And I realized I had a poor man's philosophy dressed in middle-class excuses. See, when you change your thinking, you don't just change your attitude, you change the outcome. You start asking better questions. You go from, why is this happening to me? To, how can I make this work for me? Let me give you an example. During a downturn, a friend of mine opened a small consulting business helping other businesses cut waste and restructure for leaner growth. When everyone else was downsizing their ambition, he was upsizing his vision. He didn't make his decisions based on fear. He made them based on a philosophy that opportunity doesn't disappear, it just changes form. That year he made more than he ever had. Not because the world was better, but because he was better. So if you want to increase your income, don't just hustle harder, upgrade your philosophy. Learn to see the invisible, listen for the subtle clues. Train yourself to look where others are too panicked to focus. Read books that challenge your assumptions. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not just problems. Most importantly, ask yourself, do I operate with a philosophy of abundance or of scarcity? Because the day your philosophy grows, your income can't help but follow. If you were to follow someone around for just a day, not a year, not a decade, just a day, you'd likely be able to predict where they'll end up financially in the next 5 years. That's because your financial future is not found in grand gestures or sudden luck. It's hidden right there in your daily routine. The wealthy don't sit around waiting for some big break or miracle moment. They've learned something essential. Your future is built not in years, but in how you spend your next hour. Now, let me paint the picture clearly. I used to believe that wealth was tied to major opportunities, to things that happen once in a lifetime. But what changed me was the realization that my small choices, what I read, how I used my time, who I associated with had more influence on my bank account than the economy ever did. Most people don't lose their financial future in one big mistake. They lose it in 1,000 small ones repeated daily. Eating out instead of saving, watching television instead of reading, delaying instead of deciding. And they don't even notice because routine is silent. It doesn't shout, but it writes your future in quiet ink. I met a man once who became financially independent not because of one massive business deal, but because every single morning he got up an hour earlier to study markets, read, and reflect. That discipline turned into clarity. Clarity turned into ideas. Ideas turned into actions. Actions turned into income. That's the rhythm. That's the routine. The formula wasn't hidden in complexity. It was hidden in consistency. So I challenge you to take inventory. How are you spending your time between 6 and 9 in the morning or 7 and 10 at night? Are you learning, planning, building, or are you drifting, escaping, reacting? Because if you want a different future, you have to create a different daily pattern. The beauty of this principle is that it's in your hands. You don't need permission. You don't need a windfall. You just need to make better use of the next hour. The way you shape your days is the way your future will take shape. Start small, but start now. Most people don't realize it, but the greatest obstacle to wealth isn't a lack of opportunity. It's a mindset of scarcity. It's the quiet belief tucked in the back of the mind that there's not enough. Not enough money, not enough chances, not enough time, not enough luck. And the problem with that kind of thinking is that it shuts the door before you even knock. It blocks creativity. It turns you into a person who reacts instead of a person who creates. Now, let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Early on, I caught myself saying things like, "That's too expensive," or "I could never afford that," or "I don't think I'll get that chance." I didn't realize that I was programming my mind to operate from lack. I was training my focus to shrink, not expand. Because here's the truth. When you believe there's not enough, you stop looking for what's possible. You stop seeing options. You close off your own vision. I once met a man who told me, "I don't invest because I might lose." I said, "Then you've already lost, because you've shut down the very process that could make you wealthy." Scarcity turns risk into fear. It turns planning into panic. It doesn't just limit your resources, it limits you. But here's what the wealthy do differently. They train their minds to see abundance, to believe there's always a way, that money flows, ideas are endless, and solutions exist even if they aren't visible yet. Abundance is not about pretending, it's about deciding. It's saying, I might not have everything right now, but I live in a world of opportunity. And if I keep learning, connecting, and trying, more will come. This mindset opens doors. It energizes your creativity. It helps you negotiate better, serve better, lead better. It doesn't guarantee success overnight, but it guarantees that your world will expand instead of shrink. So ask yourself, what do you say when you face challenge? Do you say, "This is it, I'm stuck"? Or do you say, "There's got to be a way"? That single belief determines whether you search or surrender, and wealth always finds those who search. Start training your mind for abundance, and you'll find that the flow of wealth follows belief, not the other way around. I've often said that if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And that's exactly what most people are doing with their financial lives, wandering around, hoping to stumble into success. But wealth is not a product of confusion. It's attracted to clarity. It flows in the direction of purpose. The more precise you are about what you want and why you want it, the faster you begin to move toward it, because now you've given your mind a target. I remember when I first got around a group of successful people. I asked them questions, trying to understand how they thought. And do you know what I noticed? Every one of them had a very clear picture of their goals, not just a number in the bank, but a reason behind it. One man told me, "I'm building wealth so I can buy back my time and spend it with my children." Another said, "I want to fund schools in countries where kids have no chance." See, money was not the end, it was the tool. Purpose gave the money its meaning, and that's what attracted more of it. Your mind is like a compass. It doesn't do well with uncertainty. But once you define the direction clearly and specifically, starts guiding your decisions in that path. That's why most people feel stuck. It's not that they don't have potential. It's that they haven't stopped long enough to define where they're going. They say things like, "I just want more money." But more than what? For what purpose? How much? By when? See, those are the questions that sharpen the arrow. Those are the questions that magnetize your mind towards solutions. When I finally got clear about my goals, so much I wanted to earn, what I wanted to build, what kind of life I was after things started to change. Not because the economy changed, but because I changed. I started reading different books, having different conversations, walking into rooms I used to avoid, because now my direction was set. So here's the challenge. Get clear. Write it down. What does wealth mean to you? What kind of life are you building? What legacy are you leaving? The clearer you get, the quicker the results will come. Because wealth, like a magnet, is drawn to those who know exactly where they're headed. You can measure a person's future by how they respond to problems. Most people see a problem and turn the other way. They say, that's not my responsibility, or this is too complicated. And they move on, hoping life will go easy on them. But let me tell you something important. Life does not go easy on those who avoid challenge. It rewards those who lean in, who look at the problem and say, let me figure it out. Solutions are the real currency of wealth. The bigger the problem you learn to solve, the more valuable you become. I remember when I first learned this principle. I was working with a man who owned several successful businesses. He pulled me aside one day and said, don't chase money. Solve problems. The money will chase you. That stayed with me. Every successful person I met after that had one thing in common. They trained their minds to be solution-focused. They didn't panic in difficulty. They didn't complain. They paused, assessed, and said, there's got to be a way. That attitude alone separates the top 5% from the rest. Now, don't misunderstand me. Solving problems isn't easy, but it's the struggle that sharpens the skill. It's the mental resistance that builds strength. Just like lifting weights, you don't get stronger by avoiding the heavy ones. You get stronger by choosing the heavy ones over and over. The same applies to your mind. You train it every day by the way you talk to yourself. The next time you're stuck, don't say, I can't. Say, how can I? That one shift in language rewires the brain from passive to powerful. I've sat in rooms where fortunes were made simply because someone had the courage to say, let me take that on. They didn't have the answer in that moment, but they had the mindset to go find it. That mindset attracts opportunity. People trust those who find answers. They invest in them. They follow them. Because solutions move the world forward, and the world rewards the movers. So here's the truth. Problems aren't your enemy. They're your opportunity. Train your mind every day to meet them with curiosity, not fear. Say to yourself, this is my chance to grow. This is where wealth is made. Because it is. Change is never something that happens to you. It's something you decide to make happen. I've learned that the most powerful moment in anyone's life is when they say, enough is enough. I'm done letting circumstances control my future. It's not the economy, the job market, or the setbacks that hold you back. It's the decision to rise above those things. Wealth begins not with money in your pocket, but with a decision in your mind. I remember early in my career, when life threw one challenge after another my way. I could have easily blamed the economy, my background, or my lack of resources. But instead, I made a choice. I would no longer be a prisoner to excuses. That moment was the turning point. From then on, every action I took was fueled by the commitment to change. It wasn't about having the perfect plan or all the answers. It was about deciding that I would move forward regardless. When you make this kind of decision, something shifts inside you. Excuses lose their power. Fear takes a back seat. You begin to see obstacles as temporary and challenges as stepping stones. It's the difference between someone who talks about change and someone who lives it. Wealthy minds don't wait for permission from the world. They create their own path because they've chosen to do so. This decision to change is not a one-time event. It's a daily commitment. Every morning you wake up and decide not to let yesterday's failures dictate today's progress. You are rewiring your mind for success. It's a habit of courage that grows stronger with each step forward, no matter how small. So if you want to attract wealth, start here. Decide today that you will no longer be at the mercy of your circumstances or excuses. Decide that your future is too important to leave to chance. Because once that decision is made, your entire life begins to move in a new direction. And that direction is toward abundance, opportunity, and true financial freedom. Before wealth comes wealth, And that wealth begins in the habits you build long before the money ever shows up in your bank account. You see, it's not the money that changes you, it's what you do with yourself first. The wealthy don't wait until they have millions to start thinking and acting like millionaires. They develop the habits first, the saving, the learning, the discipline end, and the money follows naturally. When I first started on my path, I didn't have much. But I learned quickly that if I wanted a different future, I had to develop new habits today. Saving money when your income is small might seem difficult, almost impossible, but that's exactly when it matters most. Putting away even a little bit teaches you discipline. It rewires your brain to respect value and plan for the future. It's like planting seeds before the harvest. You may not see immediate results, but one day those seeds become trees that bear fruit year after year. The same goes for knowledge. You can't wait until you're rich or successful to start learning. Invest in your education now, books, seminars, mentors. It might cost time, effort, or money, but it's an investment that compounds over a lifetime. I remember spending hours reading every day when I had very little else. Those habits created a foundation that no market crash or economic downturn could shake. Habits are the blueprint of character, and character determines your destiny. When you cultivate habits of frugality, discipline, and constant learning, you become the kind of person who naturally attracts wealth. Money isn't just a number, it's a reflection of your mindset and your actions. Build yourself first, and the money will follow. So don't wait for the riches to begin your journey. Begin with the habits. Start saving today, invest in yourself daily, and watch how the man you become opens the doors to the wealth you desire. The foundation is you, and from that foundation rises everything you want in life. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's a powerful truth that shapes your mindset, your actions, and ultimately your wealth. The people you associate with act like a mirror, reflecting back your own beliefs and attitudes about life and money. If you surround yourself with those who see possibility, who act with discipline, and who value growth, you will start to think and act like them. Your standards will rise without you even realizing it. I've seen this in my own life. Early on, I chose to spend time with individuals who were not just successful in their finances, but also in their character. They weren't perfect, but they had a mindset that said, what can I do? How can I improve? Where is the opportunity? That mindset was contagious. Just being around those people challenged me to raise my own expectations. I started to catch their habits rating more, planning better, acting with purpose. On the other hand, if you spend your days with people who complain about what they don't have, who focus on limitations and excuses, you will inevitably adopt those same limiting beliefs. Their mindset becomes your mindset. Their glass half-empty thinking clouds your vision and dulls your ambition. I've witnessed too many bright potential talents get stuck simply because they chose the wrong company. Association is not just about socializing, it's about education. The people around you teach you daily, whether intentionally or not. They set the standard for what you believe is possible and acceptable. If you want to attract wealth, you have to be intentional about who you spend your time with. Seek out those who challenge you to grow, who push you to be better, and who believe in abundance rather than scarcity. Your environment shapes your thinking, and your thinking shapes your destiny. Choose wisely the company you keep, for in that choice lies the blueprint of your future. Wealth is not simply about accumulating money. It's about creating value and serving others. The language of wealth is the language of service. When you train your mind to ask, how can I serve more people today? How can I increase my value? You begin to open the door to opportunities and abundance. Money flows naturally to those who make life better for others, whether through ideas, skills, or products. Think about it. The most successful people you know, the ones who have attracted real wealth, didn't just focus on what they could get. They asked themselves how they could contribute more. They looked at problems around them and asked, how can I solve this? How can I add value? That mindset turns scarcity into abundance and challenges into opportunities. I recall the early days of my career when I realized that the key wasn't just to work harder, but to work smarter, to create something that others truly needed. When I shifted my focus from what can I earn to what can I give, my whole perspective changed. The more value I brought to others, the more they wanted to do business with me, the more doors opened. Service became the currency of my success. This principle works in every area of life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an employee, or a professional, your mindset should be to serve and add value. The world is full of people looking for solutions, for guidance, for products that improve their lives. When you position yourself as the answer to those needs, wealth follows as a natural consequence. Remember, wealth is attracted by value, and value is created through service. The more you give, the more you get. That's the real law of prosperity, not just to take, but to give. And in giving, you build trust, relationships, and ultimately a life of abundance. The language of wealth is spoken in service, and it is through that language you will truly attract and keep what you desire. Wealth is not just a numbers game, it's deeply tied to your emotional maturity. The ability to manage your emotions, to stay steady in the face of temptation or setbacks, is what separates those who build lasting wealth from those who burn through opportunities. It's easy to get swept away by impulsisto, overspend on fleeting pleasures, to complain when things don't go your way, or to quit when the path gets tough. But wealth does not respond to emotional chaos. It responds to discipline, patience, and steadiness. Think about your own experiences. When you've made decisions driven by emotion, how often did they lead to regret? Maybe you spent money you didn't have or gave up on a goal too soon because frustration took over. I know that journey well. There were moments when impatience whispered lies, and it took conscious effort to push those feelings aside. What I learned is that the stronger your inner world, the place where your thoughts and emotions reside, the better your outer world becomes. If your mind is calm, your decisions are clearer. If your emotions are steady, your actions are consistent. Emotional maturity is like building a muscle. It takes practice to resist urges that sabotage your financial progress. When you see a tempting purchase, ask yourself if it aligns with your goals. When setbacks come, as they always will, choose to respond with resilience rather than complaint. When the easy way out beckons, remind yourself that quitting is the enemy of growth. In my life, the biggest breakthroughs came not when I got lucky, but when I mastered my feelings. Wealth requires more than knowledge and skill. It requires emotional strength. The better you manage your inner world, the more your outer world will reflect abundance and stability. The road to wealth is paved with self-control and emotional balance. Train yourself there, and you'll find wealth is not a distant dream, but a natural outcome of who you become. Wealth is often misunderstood as a pursuit driven by greed, a selfish desire to hoard money and possessions. But true wealth has nothing to do with greed. It is about growth of character, contribution, and consciousness. The mindset that attracts lasting wealth is not one of grabbing what you can for yourself, but of becoming the kind of person who creates value, uplifts others, and lives intentionally every single day. When your focus shifts from accumulation to contribution, you unlock a powerful force that attracts wealth naturally. Think about the people you admire who have true wealth, not just in dollars, but in influence and respect. They didn't get there by hoarding or being greedy. They got there by solving problems, by making life better for others, by investing in their own growth so they could give more back. That's the mindset that builds lasting prosperity. It's about becoming someone who understands that money is a tool, a byproduct of serving others well and living with purpose. I remember early in my life thinking wealth was something distant, something for others but not for me. But as I started to develop a mindset focused on growth, on learning, and on giving, opportunities began to appear. I learned that when you handle wealth with wisdom, when you don't let greed cloud your judgment, you build a foundation that lasts beyond any paycheck or bank balance. This mindset trains you not just to attract wealth, but to manage it responsibly. It teaches patience, generosity, and the importance of leaving a legacy, not just a ledger. A powerful mindset means you don't just accumulate wealth, you become wealthy in spirit, in discipline, and in impact. So remember, wealth is not a finish line to cross. It's a journey of growth and contribution. Embrace that journey, and wealth will follow as a natural consequence of who you become.